Hello everyone, my name is Anindya Mukherjee. I'm a mountaineer, adventurer and freelance writer based in Kolkata. In this talk, I will share my story on how I got allured to the magnificence of the Nanda Devi Massif, and in the process, I will share glimpses from our climb on Nanda Devi East, which is also known as Sunanda Devi to the people of Kumaon. This talk is part of an initiative by the Indian Mountaineering Foundation, and I'm very glad to be part of it. Since the early years, Nanda Devi never failed to set a spell on its beholders, Western hill walkers and Eastern shepherds alike. It can be observed that whether someone is a tourist gazing at the mountain from hundreds of kilometers away, or someone actually risking his or her life to climb it, its magic can be felt in some way or another. There is some sort of a palpably possessive mystique about Nanda Devi that makes it more than a mountain to some, or should I say, most. Yes, Nanda Devi and her sister Sunanda Devi have grown taller in our minds. They have grown taller, tougher, and almost legendary by an intricate veil of mythology and folklore around them. The rich history of heroic explorations, epic ascents, and liberal dash of romanticism around the mountain massif has only reinforced that, and for reasons known yet unexplained, plutonium or pollution, political or practical, Nanda Devi and its sanctum sanctorum remain out of bounds for less fortunate mountaineers like us. The Nanda Devi Massif is surrounded by a very high barrier ring, a barrier that had made its exploration extremely challenging in the early years. While trying to describe the shape of the high barrier ring of the sanctuary, Bill Tillman had said, "We have here a sort of reverse letter E." I used a short video clip here to help you visualize the reverse letter E concept of Tillman. This was made by fellow explorer Ashutosh Mishra on my request. So I'm thankful to Ashutosh for making this video clip for me. So today, while no one can enter the sanctum sanctorum of the Devi, there is, however, one consolation. One can attempt to approach its mountains from outside by climbing the outer rim of the sanctuary. Here you can see Nanda Devi Main and Nanda Devi East from the Pachu Valley. Dr. Longstaff had tried to find a route to enter the sanctuary from here in this valley in 1905. And here in this photo, you can see Sunanda Devi from the beautiful meadows of Bidalgaon in the Lawan Valley. The south ridge of Nanda Devi East, as marked here, is part of the 100-kilometer long barrier ring. It is from this valley in 1905, Dr. Tom Longstaff was successful at last in climbing the barrier ring of the sanctuary when he reached a col of 5910 meters. Since then, most maps and mountaineers had referred to this col as Longstaff's col, although Bill Tillman preferred to call it the Nanda Devi Khal. Tom Longstaff's ascent of Nanda Devi Khal in 1905 was significant because it is based on his report. The first ascent of Nanda Devi was achieved by the Polish in 1939. This map shows the approach route to Bidalgaon from the village of Martoli and also marks the Nanda Devi Khal in a red arrow and the south ridge of Sunanda Devi in yellow. Dr. Longstaff's photo is in the inset. Although Longstaff's party did not descend to the sanctuary floor, did not descend to the inner sanctuary, they took an opportunity to briefly reconnoiter the south ridge of Nanda Devi East and came to the conclusion that the ridge was climbable. This very observation later helped the Polish climbers immensely. To this day, the Longstaff's Col South Ridge route remains the only route successfully climbed on Sunanda Devi. This photo is from our expedition to Nanda Devi East in 2014. The South Ridge is marked by red line. In 2014, this was our second camp on the South Ridge. I will come to that story soon. While looking at the two sisters from Nanda Devi Khal, Dr. Longstaff was reminded of the mountain Ushba. Ushba is one of the most notable peaks in the Caucasus Range, and when Bill Tillman crossed Nanda Devi Khal again in 1936, he also agreed on the striking similarities. I have put a comparative photo here for your reference. In May-July 1939, a climb of Nanda Devi East was organized by the Polish Mountaineering Club. And on 2nd of July 1939, Jakub Buja and Janusz Klarner reached the summit. This was a historical ascent, but never got the limelight it richly deserved. Largely due to the onset of the World War II and the fate of Poland in the process. In May 2013, I had attempted to climb Nanda Devi East with a group of fellow Indian climber friends. The team was made of Alok, Kumaon, Anant, Enduk, Lakpa, and Temba. As you can see, in sections like this, we did not use any fixed ropes. We were climbing as 3 roped parties. This was the rule we followed in most sections of the South Ridge above Longstaff's Call. In spite of having to put 5 camps beyond base camp, this style helped us complete the climb in just 12 days to and fro from base camp. During the climb of May 2013, 4 days of non-stop snowfall resulted in limited climbing days for us, and that in turn caused shortage of food and fuel. But in spite of these limiting factors, we had made good progress on the mountain and even could manage one summit attempt from a camp of around 6,700 meters. And I've shown our high point of May 2013 here in this photo. So during the summit attempt, extremely high wind, almost like a gale, above 6,900 meters, and our poor gear conditions added to the agony. So I took a call and decided to turn back from below the summit pyramid, putting safety of the team first, safety over summit. This failure, however, inspired my desire to come back to Nanda Devi East, and the 2014 expedition was born. We realized one thing, that this mountain was climbable by our standards. This mountain was climbable within our budget, and this mountain was climbable within our style of a very lightweight approach. The 2014 team was even smaller than 2013. It was led by mountaineer and mountain historian Professor George Rodway. A team of 5 members, including 3 Sherpa climbers, my old and trusted climbing partners, Tenduk Temba and Duk Chering. Together, we went above base camp, while Lakpa and Himangshu, our liaison officers, stayed at the base. I remember we needed only 12 low altitude porters from Munsiari to carry our expedition loads up the Bidal Gaur. That is how small and lightweight our expedition was. I have had the chance to see recent expeditions that went to Nanda Devi East and saw how many porter loads they actually. Beyond base camp, our team ferried loads for a few days to the foot of Longstaff's Call, and after establishing an advanced base camp at around 4,750 meters, we also pushed and made another intermediate camp at around 5,000 meters. Now, this intermediate camp was established in an aim to shorten the 1,100 meter climb from ABC to Longstaff's Call. And the idea proved to be very helpful. Compared to the 9 hours that we needed to do this climb in 2013, it took us only 5 hours in 2014. Beyond Longstaff's Call in 2014, we placed 3 more camps, namely Camp 1, 2, and 3, in altitudes of 6,100, 6,400, and 6,800 meters. Now, we increased 1 more camp as opposed to the 3 camps on the ridge. This time we had 4 camps. In this photo, we can see a member of our team approaching the Nanda Devi Khal or Longstaff Khal after the 5-hour climb from the intermediate camp. The previous day, we did a ferry and fixed a rope all the way up to the Khal. And immediately, the day after we hit the east face of the Longstaff Khal, we realized that there was so little snow cover compared to 2013. This helped in our movement, to be honest, on the east face of Longstaff Khal. In this photo, looming slightly right and above the climber is the silhouette of the first of the 3 pinnacles, if you can see that. And from our experience of 2013, we knew that this would be the second obstacle on the south ridge to cross after one reaches Longstaff Khal. Being a small team and a very low budget expedition, we carried a limited amount of static rope to fix. In fact, this is the 3 coils of static rope we carried and used above Longstaff Khal. We did load ferries of hardware and food up to Camp 2 and ascended the rest of the ridge in carry camp and climb style. Unlike 2013, we found the Longstaff Khal and the rest of the south ridge almost completely devoid of snow cover. As a result, many of the leftovers from the previous expeditions were now exposed. While doing an afternoon walk on the narrow ridge, we found the remnants of 2 tents and some food left there since 2005. At the end of the climb, we brought down as much as we could to base camp. And you can also see the first pinnacle in the center. The next objective morning next. This is a clip of the last pitch of the climbing on the first pinnacle. The first objective one faces, the first hazard one faces right after reaching Longstaff Khal. Here one can see two more ropes from the old expedition still dangling on the face. We, however, relied on our own and kept going. One can see how thin and brittle the snow cover was. Below the snow cover, it was a slush of mud and loose rocks. Not a very comforting condition on a face like this. Now, once you have reached the top of the first pinnacle, the immediate height gain pauses for a while. And now starts a meditated, prolonged balancing act on the naked south ridge. We could see and experience for ourselves that how much better and safer this time the same ridge was with snow and ice plastered in May 2013. The ridge here, as you can see, in places is a few inches wide, and the constitution of the ridge looks like an insane Lego block design. While doing this traverse in 2013, I could relate to Martin Moran's comment on this section. Martin Moran called it the pinnacle dance. In 2014, that dance was somewhat nerve-wracking for us. We placed our Camp 2 somewhat closer to Longstaff Khal, right on the top of the third pinnacle actually. This was intentional. In 2013, we were forced to camp on the rock band shown in the yellow circle here and knew that it was better avoided. Our plan therefore was to cross the rock band in one go and put Camp 3 over and above in a comparatively safe area. I have marked the locations of our Camp 3 and Camp 4 in this photograph. Now this truly was a spectacular day in the afternoon of when we reached Camp 2, and we were blessed with the grand vista of Nanda and Sunanda from very close quarters. And a privileged view of the inner sanctuary was a bonus. Climbing the rock band right after Camp 2 was not difficult. I think the right expression would be a little short of dangerous. It was dangerous due to the nature of the wet and unstable rock, which was made worse by the altitude and our heavy loads. It is for this precise reason we had climbed and refixed sections of this rock band the evening before. So when we were actually crossing this with heavily laden backpacks, we did not have to worry about falling into the inner sanctuary. After we were over and above the rock band, the scenario changed from what we experienced in 2013. We could see the ridge was barely covered with snow. We fixed some sections as we progressed. Sometimes we could even spot old fixed ropes dangling far below on our left. That made sense, as in a normal snow and ice condition, one would be doing a traverse to that level. And in fact, that is exactly what we did in 2013. Pretty soon, the ridge became thin and sharp. We could not believe our eyes. It was like walking a tightrope, except this tightrope was not a rope. It was an uneven, unstable, slaty, blocky, rocky ridge, with both sides dropping to 2,000 meters. We thanked Nanda Devi for one thing at that time: there was no wind. For if there was wind, the fixed rope would have only served as a mental support, and at any moment we could fly like a kite. After a rather long day, a rather hair-raising day, we found a suitable spot to put our camp 3. We could see the weather was changing. Suddenly, clouds were gathering around the Devi. Looking back, we could have just a glimpse of the razor-sharp rock ridge that we just traversed, and was simply happy to have reached Camp 3. But then it snowed for the next 2 nights. After it snowed for the 2 nights straight, the third morning at Camp 3 finally gave us a clear sky. If it snowed for another day, we discussed among ourselves, our expedition would have been over. We now were left with just 3 more nights of food and fuel. The thought of the new snow on the ridge and the rock bands and the snow slopes above us was not encouraging. Plus, the 2 days of waiting out the storm, sitting in the tent, cramped and slightly underfed, was not particularly great for our team morale. But the sun has something magical about it. Within an hour, we were feeling good and decided to move and make Camp 4. Surprisingly, we reached our planned Camp 4 site at around 6,900 meters in very good time. Everyone felt good. There was little or almost no wind. We were able to have distant views once again. Our hopes rose high. In the late afternoon, we climbed up the slope and fixed the precious 2 static rope coils and came back to tent and started brewing tea and soup and mentally readied ourselves for an early morning move to the summit. I somehow find this photo deeply satisfying when I see that it is almost in the same location and almost exactly 75 years ago, the 1939 Polish expedition had their summit camp as well. If we were not stuck in Camp 3 for 2 days, we thought we would have made our summit push on exactly the same date as the Polish did during their first ascent, 2nd July 1939. We reached our summit camp in 2014, just one day later on 2nd July 1939. And so we had only one summit day, which was the 3rd of July 2014. On 3rd of July 2014, we got all geared up and started moving shortly after 2 in the morning. Very soon we realized it was bitterly cold and the wind reminded me of 2013 summit day once again. Our realization was it would be suicidal to keep moving in such conditions, and so we delayed our departure. With the sun, the wind slowed down a bit, but so did our chances of making the summit in good time. By the time we had gone above the first rock step, we were covered in a mist. In 1939, Bouyak had written, recalling this particular section of the climb, within quote, there followed an infinitely slow slog up a moderately steep snow crest with 1 or 2 rock outcrops, flattening below the last obstacle, the third step. Now, coming back to us, this proved easier than the second, but at the same time, it was taking us a hell of a long time. Our experience was no different from Booyah or Clarners of 1939. After we crossed the third rock step, the last bit was up a steep snow riblet, if you can call it. And then the riblet suddenly eased off rather unexpectedly and merged into a large snowfield. And ours was almost whiteout conditions. All we could see, and I was always afraid of breaking cornices and falling thousands of feet below. I have read about enough fatalities on this very mountain, and they were enough to put my mind on high alert. I said, stop, let's take our pictures. So we stopped. The ground looked flat. This could be the summit, or the summit could be another hump away. But we decided to stop, take our photographs, and save some energy to get back to the summit camp. But it was impossible to gaze because there was simply no view. So we had some sort of a disappointment in our heart. Just as soon as we were getting prepared to retrace our steps back, something magical happened. The clouds parted for a few seconds and we could not believe our eyes on what we saw. It was Nanda Devi name, happy and content. We took slow but sure steps down to Camp 4. It had taken us a bit more than 16 hours to climb and come back to our Camp 4. We had just climbed Nanda Devi East on the 75th anniversary of its first ascent. The next morning was the clearest morning in the entire expedition. We packed our gear and heavily laden, we kept moving down to Longstaff's Call. After spending another night in the call camp, we were back in the comfort and warmth of base camp. It was in Longstaff's Call we came across this wooden picket. It is difficult to guess from which year it was. It is highly probable that such hardware were used by the earliest of pioneers on this mountain. And it is at this moment, our heart filled with respect and awe. They achieved so much with so little. It was at this moment I realized why climbing Nanda Devi East was not a personal or a group achievement. It was a pilgrimage indeed. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you, Indian Mountain Foundation, for organizing this. Thank you.